have Sayyid Veqar al-Islam. Sayyid Veqar al-Islam has a huge profile in the corporate sector. He currently is the director and CEO of Jafra Business Systems. He's also the president of Touchpoint Group, and he's also the founding member of MEA Karachi. Ladies and gentlemen, he's also been VP, SVP of companies like Nokia Siemens. He's an inspirational leader, and he's also a fantastic speaker. A big round of applause.
Assalamu alaikum. Good to be here. Very good to be here, and it was great to listen to all the speakers. My topic is adding that extra to ordinary. And what does that mean? Extraordinary. One of our amazing poets, his name is Abdul Rasul, he said something very inspiring. He said a lot of great things, but one stanza that I love. सेल्स की दुनिया में सबसे मुश्किल सेल्समैन जो होता है या सबसे डिफिकल्ट एक कथा कहा था मैंने कहा कि एक इंश्योरेंस सेल्समैन किसी को इंश्योरेंस बेच रहा है उसने जाके कहा कि आप कराएं हमसे सब अंदेशों को आप मुझे बीमा करा लें इससे हमसे बेहतर कोई नहीं कर सकता आप कराएं हमसे बीमा छोड़े खासे पैसे मिल जाएंगे आपके बीवी बच्चों को आप तसल्ली से मर जाएं बाकी काम हमारा I'll not tell you anything which means that I'll die and you can do whatever you like and vice versa, but I'll just share how just adding extra to ordinary makes it extraordinary. And it is actually about extra. So I take you back there. I worked for this very large global IT multinational called NCR. My 4th day in NCR Corporation, a US based 150-year-old company. उस जमाने में computers कहा करते थे, IT नहीं कहा करते थे. उस जमाने में मेल, फीमेल, फीमेल होती थी, ईमेल नहीं होती. So all those things have come much later. So the only way we used to communicate. My 4th day in office, and every time a new product would be released, all the countries in the world. Although minor, everyone has to read them, sign them off, goes to the next table. The guy will read it, sign it off, send it to the next table. Since I was the newest bloke in the company, it got to me to the last. I didn't know much about computers at that time. I didn't know how it works. I had never seen a computer in my life till I actually entered the NCR office only 4 days prior. So I was not expected to read that release letter about the new product and understand much, but since it got to be more as a ritual rather than anything else, or more as a formality rather than anything. Series of products. They just released a new product within this series, and this was a release letter which had all the information about the product. I skimmed through it, I didn't understand what they said. Was that NCR had just sold its 100,000th tower, and that was interesting. I went to the library, looked at when this product was released, and I found out this was released possibly 3 years ago or 2 years ago. I don't exactly remember. So now I have 2 data points. So remember, a 21, 22-year-old, absolutely fresh out of the university, doesn't know much about computers, just got 2 data points, 100,000 towers sold, and 2 years ago, as an example, the product was released. While sitting on the desk, I just thought about if it's 2 years, 100,000 product, that means 50,000 a year, that means almost 4,500 a month, that means almost 150,000 a day. Wow, I made a nice spreadsheet using all my business communication skills. I wrote a very nice letter because I thought the information needs to be communicated to the market in a very different way, in a way that I'm saying. And I made a very nice letter just bringing on my experience of studying business communication, and I took it to my boss. So a 4-day-old guy goes to a boss and says, "Boss, by the way, I just read the release letter of this Tower 32, and there is something I've prepared. You looked at it?" And he said, "Wow, did you do this?" I said, "Yes." He said, "This is great. We should communicate it to the market. Well done, young man. Keep it up and leave it with me." I left it with him. I went out for lunch, came back after about an hour, and the country head's assistant was looking for me. And she said, "Mr. Khati wants to see you." And in those days, 4-day-old employee going to a country head was typically not a good news. So I was extremely nervous. I went in, met Mr. Bhatti, and he said, "Young man, have you prepared this?" So he had this paper in front of him. I said, "Yes." He said, "This is great news. I want this letter to go out in the market in your name because you came up with this idea." Suddenly, a 5-day-old kid, his name will go out in the market as one of the known person in the market. It did not stop there. Next day morning, I came back to my desk and there was a TEDx. Those days, communication was mostly through television. So there was a TEDx message from Mr. Chris Philactu, who was the area vice president, head of Middle East and Africa region, to our country head and copying me. And imagine NCR had thousands of people within the Middle East and Africa region. So he sent a copy to me saying, "Mr. Bhatti, I read your note, it was excellent. I have sent it out to all 54 countries in Middle East and Africa region, and I think this news should go out to the market exactly the way Veqar has calculated." And this was great news. 5 days into the company, I was a known commodity within NCR Corporation, and that is why possibly it took me 14 years to become the youngest country head of NCR Corporation in Pakistan. What is extremely important to know, all I did was that I was supposed to read something. And that's it. Everyone in the company read it, including myself. I just went that extra mile and created something. And just that little bit extra made all the impact to make me a known person and people follow me. So if the moment you add something extra to your work, going beyond what you have been told, you start the journey from ordinary to extraordinary. That was more or less my start. And if you can add some purpose to this extra, it becomes that much more interesting. It becomes that much more purposeful. So, and this purpose in life cannot be about earning a salary, cannot be about a career, cannot be about yourself. It has to be much larger than that. It has to be about the community you serve. It has to be about the country of yours. It has to be about the people you can impact in life. Only then you will be able to have purpose, which is, let's, for the sake of argument, call it benevolent intent. And once you have a benevolent intent, your work becomes passion. And more often than not, once you have passion, you achieve it. Till I came to the country of NCR, I had this passion that in my own capacity, I wanted to take Pakistan into a global stage. And if we could do it in a way that Pakistan could be recognized, of course, within the realm I was operating in, if Pakistan could be recognized as a global player in IT, software development, skills, etc., that would be nice. And nobody asked me to do it. It was not my job. I would not get paid for it. But it was a purpose that I more or less lived my life with. And I got my first opportunity in 2001 when I was heading NCR. This was a time when we more or less introduced the concept of data warehousing in Pakistan. A lot of people who are associated with IT or who understand IT are hearing the term big data and analytics these days. It all starts from data warehousing. So we started this concept of data warehousing in Pakistan. We did some projects, we were developing a lot of resources in the country. And I thought if we can, because this concept is new, the resources were quite scarce and very expensive around the globe. If I can produce quality people with fraction of the cost, I have a chance to go global. At that time, the head of data warehousing business for NCR, his name is Mark Bird, he was following us at the kind of things we were doing in Pakistan, so he more or less knew what's happening in Pakistan. Subsequently, this guy became the president of NCR, president of HP, currently the co-president of the Corporation. So I met Mark in, I think, 2001 in Orlando. And he told me, Veqar, I've been following the kind of work you and your team are doing. What more can we do for you? And I said, why can't we make Pakistan a global hub for data warehousing? He said, great idea. How will it help us? And I said, it will help you because it will help you reduce the cost. You will get the same quality that you can send to more customers, which you have not been able to do. And he said, now, we started with 2 people in Pakistan, only 2 people, and we got a project in Bahrain where 2 of our young people went, and they were implementing a data warehousing project. But the start of setting up a center of expertise, at that time we called it center of expertise, subsequently it was called Global Consulting Center. The start was made. As we were moving forward, we were about to get a project from Kuwait. Kuwait was supposed to win it, and we would have sent 13 to 15 of our people to Kuwait, which would have meant that the center of expertise would have become established, and it was a big project over a year engagement. I read a news somewhere that NCR had won the project, but none of our people were going to Kuwait, and that surprised me. So I called the guy who was supposed to lead this initiative, and I said, who is going to Kuwait from our side? He said, no one. And I said, why? He said, because Kuwait doesn't give visas to Pakistanis. By the way, they don't give it even now. So Kuwait doesn't give visas to Pakistanis. But did you check? Yes, NCR Kuwait checked it, and then she said, no, we don't give it. And we checked it from here, and it doesn't happen. So what? So that means the project has actually gone to the neighboring country, to one of the large IT companies, and we can't get it. And I was very, very upset. I said, this cannot be true. There has to be a way. I called my boss. His name was George Savidas, a great supporter of Pakistan, and really helped us in setting up this global consulting center. And I said, George, why did you give it to the neighboring country? He said, I have to start the project. You guys can't get visa. And I said, what if I get you the visa? And he said, if you can get me the visa in 2 weeks, the project is yours because you've just given the letter of intent, you can take it back. And I said, okay, in 2 weeks you will have the visa. And I swear I had no clue what I'm saying, whether I can get the visa or not, and how it will happen. Absolutely no clue whatsoever. I went to the ministries, I went to various people I knew in Islamabad to try and find out if there is any way I can get the visa for our people in Kuwait. And while everyone tried to help, I couldn't. And the time was passing by, and the 2 week deadline was approaching. But somehow, I was not finding a way. I used to live in Islamabad, and I was called to Karachi to speak at a banking conference. I arrived in the morning. It was Pearl Continental in Karachi. And since I was a speaker, they took me to the front row as we were sitting there. And I was waiting for my turn. Just adjacent to me, there was a guy sitting with the traditional Arabic dress. A big bank in Pakistan at that time was just taken over by one of the Middle Eastern banks, and since it was a banking conference, logic said that he's one of the bankers from possibly one of those banks. And I just asked him, sir, my name is Veqar, which bank do you represent? And the answer I got, ladies and gentlemen, was absolutely surprising, shocking. The answer I got was, I don't represent the bank. I am the Counsel General of Embassy of Kuwait. And I said, Wallahi, my friend, man, I've been looking for you with tears in my eyes. I gave him the story of how I'm struggling with the visa. And he said, Mr. Veqar, don't worry, by that time my name was Paul. I came back after giving my talk and had a chat with him, gave him the whole story. Ladies and gentlemen, less than 2 weeks, we had 13 visas and Global Consulting Center. And this was brilliant because NCR became the first big multinational to set up a Global Consulting Center in Pakistan. something ministers have been trying, something government have been trying, something various ministries have tried, could not work. We were able to do that. Today, this global consulting center has over 400 people who serve customers internationally for Teradata, now the name of the company. Not just that, seeing what we were able to achieve, IBM set up a similar center in Pakistan. Oracle and Microsoft, I was told, did also something similar, just because one center was set up and a reference was created. When you have passion for something and the purpose is much bigger than yours, nature helps you in many different ways. The third key point, so I talked about just adding a bit extra, having a passion. The third key point is never say it cannot be done. Never. Whenever, and that's the key lesson in adding extra to the ordinary. The moment someone says, please do it, instead of saying it can't be done, think how it can be done. I think human beings are born to see how things can be done rather than why it cannot be done. The moment you say why it cannot be done, you have killed any chance of making it happen. You have even stopped God from giving him the opportunity to help you. Because you've not tried. You've not even started. If something will not start, I guarantee it will not finish. You have to start. So the moment you say, let me think how it can be done. So imagine I also said, the logic says, if embassy is saying visa cannot be given, it cannot be given. I should have said, let's give up. But just because I wanted to explore, I got help in an amazing way. Imagine a banking conference. What would a Kuwait counselor be doing in a banking conference? What is his role? But he was there somehow. And why would he be sitting next to me? But he was sitting next to me. And that's incredible. And the third point, the fourth point and last point from my side is, in order for you to add extra to ordinary, never be happy with what you have. You need to raise the bar. You need to go to the next level. You need to make sure that you try and look for ways to find improvement. In whatever you are, whatever your current state is. I give you an example that my current work, one day I got an email escalation, a system escalation, saying we have 418 open calls. And I was very new in this company at that point in time. This is about 1.5 years ago. And 418 customer calls means there are 418 customer calls which have not been attended in less than 24 hours. That's what it means. And I was quite happy because its numbers sounded too big to me. And I called my customer services head and I asked him, what is this? He was extremely embarrassed by the escalation mail that's come to the CEO. And he said, sir, sorry, my apologies. I said, no, that's not my problem. My problem is, what's the threshold? He said, 415. I said, that's my problem. 415 is a very high threshold. And I'm not willing to accept it. He said, but this has been there for 10 years. And we did a lot of work before we came up with this. I don't care. I wanted 100. He said, based on what? I said, I don't know. It's just that 415 is not a good number I like. 100. We had a big argumentation. I tried to convince him. Finally, or reluctantly, either he was convinced or he said the boss is sending it, so I have no choice but to say yes. He accepted it. Right? Ladies and gentlemen, 1.5 years down the road, we have 7 open calls at any given time. That's how the journey of improvement happens. From 415 open calls threshold, now our threshold is 7 open calls at any given time for less than more than they cannot be open for more than 4 hours. That's how, and it just needed a self-belief that it can be done, rather than saying I'm happy with the current mindset. And the moment that happened, the company's culture started to change, the engineers started looking at calls in a different way, and customer satisfaction went up many notches, not few notches, but many, many notches. So 4 things we talked about. First, do a little bit extra. A little bit extra. Think of doing something which is beyond what you are asked to do. A bit more, a bit smarter, a bit faster, a bit better, and people will start to see you in a different way. Add benevolent intent to your life, which cannot be your career, which cannot be your salary, which cannot be the money you earn. It has to be much larger than that. In your own sphere. Third is never have an attitude ways of thinking, and it has. And last but not the least, always go beyond your current state. Never accept what we call status quo. Never. Because the moment you accept status quo, you actually start to go down. Think of going extra. Think of going beyond. Always do more than what you are asked for. If you do that, at least I learned in my life that doing these very basics, you progress, and you progress far. So let the journey begin. Thank you very much.